Have no fear, Trey is here. Have no fear, Trey is here. What's up? This is Trey Daubert, founder, owner, CEO of VendettaSportsMedia.com. I just wanted to do a quick little recording because I know most people are doing their fantasy drafts coming up here soon. It's the preseason. Maybe you're in 2 leagues, 3 leagues, whatever it is. I just wanted to do a quick video on the top 5 things to always keep in mind for your fantasy league. It doesn't matter who you are or what league it is. These are my top 5 rules. They're just the easiest of basic fantasy rules that you always have to keep in mind. Let's call it elementary school fantasy football. But if you don't have these fundamental rules, odds are you're probably making a lot of key mistakes and you're probably not winning your league. And here's the best part. If you don't trust me, you're in good hands. And I'm going to show you some proof here. So everyone's all in on this George Pickens guy, right? Everybody's all in on this George Pickens guy, but I'm the only one that ranked him first. How does that work? How does that work? Seems interesting. Let's get it started here. So rule number 5, know your league rules. You must know your league rules. If you don't know your league rules, you're already off to a terrible start. And what do I mean by this? Every league is different, and it doesn't matter what league it is. Okay. So I'll give you a perfect example. The league that I'm always in, it's my favorite league that I'm in. Rushing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, they're worth 8 points. And that's not ever the case for any other fantasy league. But in those instances, you want guys that are going to score touchdowns. Perfect example this year, Ramondre Stevenson. Maybe he has a LeGarrette Blount type year, but if it's a touchdown heavy league, maybe you move him up a couple spots, right? Derrick Henry, he's always going to be a big guy in a touchdown heavy league. So quarterbacks that can run, 8 points, another factor. So know your league rules. I can't stress it enough. Read over them. Think about them. What are the league rules? How can you take advantage of the league rules? That right there is so important, and I don't think people understand it. And I know, yes, it's the basic of basic principles, but you got to know your league rules because I can promise you it does not matter what league it is. I can find a loophole. So make sure you find your loophole. Rule number 4, be prepared. And that doesn't mean, hey, I'm going to watch every preseason game so I make sure I win my league. I'm going to read every practice report. I'm not going to stop. You don't necessarily need to do that. It's not necessary. Back in the day when I was like 12 years old, I used to have a spreadsheet and I was calculating formulas and I had player projections and I win all the time regardless, but that's not necessarily what you have to do. Be prepared as in, okay, I'm in an auction draft. I have a $250 budget. I'm going to spend $30 on a tight end to make sure I get one of the good ones. I'm going to spend $50 on my quarterback to make sure I have one of the good ones. My league rules, we have to start 2 quarterbacks. So I got a budget. I got to make sure, okay, here's how much money I have left. Here's the quarterbacks that are possibly available. Budget, plan, be prepared. If you're in a snake draft, grow a pair of balls. But if you're in a snake draft, hey, these are the rounds that I'm thinking about. Hey, round 6, I want this guy. Round 7, there's a three names on the list. I want this guy. Now, if you're in a snake draft, grow a set of nuts and be better. But get my point. Be prepared. Do your homework. You don't got to watch every preseason game. You don't got to read every single report. You don't got to do all that stuff. All you got to really do, read the website, VendettaSportsMedia.com. If I publish something, check it out. Other than that, know the guys who are potentially available and how you can possibly acquire them. Number 3, this one is absolutely necessary. Take risks. Take risks. Take risks. I can't stress it enough. And listen, not every dart throw is going to work. And that's important to remember. Sometimes you're really going to like a guy. And sometimes it's not going to work. But that's okay. Because at least you tried. And I'll give you a perfect example so that you guys can kind of understand where I'm coming from on this. Alan Lazard here is ranked 38th. DeAndre Hopkins is ranked 40th. Now, ask yourself this question, right? Ask yourself this question. even with Hopkins suspended, how many weeks will Hopkins be in your lineup compared to Alan Lazard will be in your lineup? Here's another great example, right? Here is Devontae Smith, right? He's wide receiver 36. Drake London, who's done nothing. He's a rookie. He's 37th, and Drake London stinks. All right, Drake London stinks. Take risks. This is Devontae Smith entering year 2. He's going to get better. He's a Heisman-winning wide receiver. And he has actually, like, I guess, an NFL quarterback. Marcus Mariota's not a starter. So take risks. Let's go over the running backs, right? Let's look at another example. Take risks. Take risks. Take risks. Right here's a perfect example. Melvin Gordon. The goal of your fantasy league is to win your fantasy league. Melvin Gordon is never going to win your fantasy league. We know what Melvin Gordon's going to do, right? Melvin Gordon's what, 29, 30 years old? We know what Melvin Gordon's going to give you next year. He's never going to surprise you. You got to look for the guys that breakouts. Last year, it was Deebo Samuel, and I tried to tell you about Deebo Samuel. I've been trying to tell everybody about Deebo Samuel, another guy that I ranked first on my list, and I was the only one to do so. Melvin Gordon's never going to win you your league. It does not matter if you come in second or third or fourth or fifth. You want league winners, guys that turn the tides in your favor, right? Could Ramondre Stevenson be that guy? I don't know. We'll see. Could James Cook be that guy? It's a great offense. It's a nice dart throw. It's a great dart throw. Take risks. Take risks, because if they don't work out, it's okay, right? If they don't work out, it's fine, because you're going to have to cut a couple guys anyway. Hey, I need a tight end on a bye week. Hey, I needed a kicker on a bye week. Here's a dart throw that didn't work. I can cut him. Take risks. Don't just draft guys that, oh, he's the safe pick. He's the safe pick. He's the safe pick. You don't win your leagues that way. Take risks all the time. Number 2, and this is my biggest rule, and it's always been my biggest rule. Number one's the most obvious rule that nobody ever does, and I don't get it. But number 2 on the list, never, and I mean never, and I mean fucking never, and I mean fucking never, draft a running back on a bad team. Never. Don't do it. Now, hey, if you see Cordell Patterson, like last year, he's sitting on the waiver wire. The Falcons were a bad team, but he's doing a little bit of everything, and he costs nothing. Different story. Don't invest heavy resources on running backs that play for bad teams. And I'll show you the perfect example. Saquon Barkley is number 12. I'm just going to tell you right now, there's not a fucking shot that Saquon Barkley is an RB1 this year. There's just no chance. There's just no chance, because he plays for the New York Giants. And the New York Giants are not going to move the football. And Saquon Barkley isn't going to get those runs inside the 5-yard line and the 10-yard line. The New York Giants are going to suck. And any of these guys that, hey, your team's going to stink, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Don't pick running backs on bad teams, because what happens is, let's say we get to the third quarter. Your Giants are down 14. Run game's out the window. This is what happens. You want running backs that play on good teams. Running backs that are committed to the run. Running backs where you know, hey, my team's going to run the ball. My team's probably going to have a lead at least half the time, maybe. All right? Just don't pick running backs on terrible, terrible fucking teams, because it won't work. It never does. All right, here's a great example. I'm going to have the option to either have Cam Akers or Breece Hall. One guy plays for the fucking Jets. One guy plays for the Rams. It does not matter. Anything else. You could swap Breece Hall and put him on the Rams. You could put Cam Akers and put him on the Jets. I'll take the opposite then. Don't take running backs on bad teams. Here's a perfect example. Travis Etienne, he plays for Jacksonville. Maybe Jacksonville's a little bit better, but it's still Jacksonville. And they're not going to win more than, 6 games? 7 games? Don't take running backs on bad teams, and I can't stress it enough. Stop doing it. Don't do it. It's only a recipe for a disaster. Running backs on good teams. I want my guy getting carries in the second quarter, in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter. I want my guy getting touches all the time, not just game plan dependent. So, Pay attention. Who's on a bad team and why don't you want him? Is the perfect way to go about this. How good is Dameon Pierce going to be? He wasn't that good at Florida. And I know he's probably going to start for them because they have nobody else, but I don't know. I'd rather take my shot with a James Cook over a Dameon Pierce or something like that. So pay attention. Try to not take guys on bad teams. Now, quarterback's a little bit of a different story. You could get some garbage time points and stuff like that. Running backs on bad teams, And I'll show you a perfect example. Like last year, how did they finish, right? Let's just do this together. So all these people want Saquon Barkley. You can't find enough guys that want Saquon Barkley, right? Look at the list here. Jonathan Taylor played for a team that, probably should have went to the playoffs, but didn't. Austin Eckler played for a team that probably should have went to the playoffs. Joe Mixon played for a team that went to the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh, what do they have? The 20th pick in the draft, so they weren't terrible. Arizona, playoff team. Dallas, playoff team. Cleveland should be a playoff team if they had a functional quarterback, right? Overall, a good team, though. And Nick Chubb's a monster. Damian Harris. It's New England. They're not quite the same. Still a playoff team. New Orleans, playoff team. You get the point. All right, Tampa Bay. Now, Patterson leaked in here, but he was also free. Playoff team. Borderline playoff team. Now, Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams were back to back to back, but obviously now that Williams is not a rookie anymore, that one's going to be mixed up. Okay, here's the first team that sucked. David Montgomery. I thought David Montgomery had a good year, right? If you had David Montgomery, you were probably actually happy. But he's RB20. If David Montgomery played for a better team, he probably would have been where Fournette was. So pay attention. And you look down here, look at Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny had some good weeks. Plays for Seattle. Not good enough. Now Russell Wilson's not there anymore. Pay attention to this stuff. Pay attention. Here's Barkley. 34. Plays for the New York Giants. Don't pick running backs on fucking bad teams. And the bad teams, I'm talking about the teams they're going to pick in the top 5. Fucking New York Giants are going to stink. The New York Giants are going to stink. Don't take Saquon. Look at RB34 last year. He played in 14 games. You think if Barkley plays for, the Buffalo Bills, he doesn't outscore Devin Singletary? Stop it. All right? Do not, in any circumstance, and I don't give a fuck who it is, if you think this team's going to suck, and I mean really suck, don't pick them. I think, personally, the New York Giants are going to be fucking terrible. Don't take Saquon Barkley. Any team that you think is going to be fucking terrible, like I think Seattle's going to be terrible. I'm not taking Rashad Penny. Now, maybe if Kenneth Walker's free or whatever, I'll take a flyer there, but you're not taking Rashad Penny. Seattle's going to suck. Even Cordero Patterson. Now Cordero Patterson isn't free anymore, right? Cordero Patterson, his price tag went a lot higher. Falcons aren't going to be any good. Don't spend an arm and a leg. Even though I love Cordero Patterson, don't spend an arm and a leg on Cordero Patterson. So that would be rule number 2. Don't ever pick running backs of bad teams. It's just an automatic way to lose your fantasy league, because what happens is you have a running back on a bad team. Teams 3, 4, and 5 have running backs on good teams. You lose. All right. Next thing. And this is my number 1 rule. And nobody's going to ever tell you this. But it's the number 1 rule in fantasy, and you always have to remember it. Every year that you go into a draft, you have to remember this rule. If you don't remember this rule, just fucking don't even try. The number 1 rule in fantasy. How do you think these players will be ranked next year? Because that is the correct answer for how they will perform this year. And the number 1 reason why I dominated everyone in fantasy football is, how do you think these players will be ranked 1 year from now? And I'm just going to tell you, here's a perfect example. Number 1 out of the bat. Fantasy finishes. Jonathan Taylor was first last year by a mile, right? Jonathan Taylor was the number 1 running back in fantasy, and it just wasn't close. But if you go back a year, like last year, you could have gotten Jonathan Taylor probably I don't know, late first round if you're doing those garbage snake drafts, right? Second round if you're doing those garbage snake drafts. Now, how is he ranked this year? Right? Here's Jonathan Taylor. He's ranked first. You're too late. You're too late. You've lost. If you rank Jonathan Taylor first, you've lost. You've already lost. Your list is already invalid because he won't finish as number one this year. How will the guys finish next year? That's what you have to think about. Don't just look at the list and be like, Jonathan Taylor, hey, what do you know? He's the number one ranked guy. I have to pick him. It's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. How will these guys be ranked next year? So what you should do every single year is go through the list. What's the rankings, right? Pick a couple of young guys, right? It's always going to be a guy like last year was Deebo Samuel, right? Last year was Deebo Samuel. I've always been high on Deebo Samuel. If I would have ranked Deebo Samuel 6th last year, everyone would have called me a wacko, right? But you got to be early. Always be early. So pick a couple young guys that you think will break out, a couple young guys that will move up the list, or even a couple old guys. Like last year was a perfect example. Why are you drafting Julio Jones? Why are you drafting Julio Jones? You know, he's got Ryan Tannehill throwing him the fucking ball. He's old as dirt. Why are you drafting Julio Jones? And you could have gotten Julio Jones for the same price tag as Cooper Kupp, and that's another example. Who was going to be ranked higher next year? Who was going to be ranked higher next year? Old Julio Jones or Cooper Kupp that just got Matthew Stafford? Early. Okay? So let's look, and this is my ride or die this year. This is the guy that I just don't get it. They've been moving Dobbins all over the board. I've seen him as low as like 26 or whatever on their list. Just think about it. We have J.K. Dobbins. We have him in an offense, the Baltimore Ravens. And I already have a video on this. You can check it out on the YouTube channel. But early. You think J.K. Dobbins in the Baltimore Ravens offense and a team that runs the ball more than anybody else, add a guy that rushed for more yards at Ohio State than Ezekiel Elliott? And Ezekiel Elliott's now old, right? Zeke Elliott's now old. And we have the younger version who rushed for more yards at Ohio State than him, who plays for now a better offensive line, a better organization, and we're going to have Dobbins ranked below Zeke. Doesn't make sense. Be early. How are these guys going to be ranked next year? Don't look at the list for this year. This would be a perfect example of what to do. How do you think these guys will be ranked next year? Then draft based on that. Those are your keys to success. Let me know what you think. If you have more questions, you can always reach out, vendettasportsmedia.com, and follow me on Twitter, Trey Daubert. Thank you guys for watching. Till next time, we'll see you soon.